Hello. There are five identities of positive being generated, as one identity making more of its positive identity, which is a trinity, because it's a little bit bigger than this, while being that as the trinity. But to discern it from inside of it, we have to see how it is this trinity distinctly and non distinctly, where that and how that is not true, is only how it is only in demonstration of how it is an exception, in demonstration of how we're even there, it's true. For example, it's true that yin yang are inseparable, and yin stands for female, and yang stands for male. It stands for more than that, too. This is about the Trinity again. The value of each male and of each female is increasing. Every value is only increasing, whereas in how it counts per science, actually per this method. See, but we have pseudo positive treatments, and we have time treatments are used always to keep states and areas as criminal insidious natures of positive treatments, as sensibility treatments, as time treatments. So we have investigations and things like that. In the process of that, before they were had, while they're being had, and from beyond it, they were contained sophistication involved with database racketeering. That is also tied to the right near exits of highways. That is used through time to maintain self-value, entrenched intercampuses, influences from off campuses, on off campuses, and layers, the natures of investigators, maintain appearance of people that aren't involved with investigations, but they're really involved with it. Foreign and domestic and collusion. We have shared policing and shared treatments of. I had when I was in middle school. There are people who had brothers who were involved with the policing of stores, like I believe it was Ames and a Caldor. And now these people are involved with DACA, with racketeering, with the uses of family members associated with the intelligence community, with Connecticut interstate universities and colleges that are also maintained in victim predators in collusion with the databases at each campus of each age and nature connected. There, in other words, when I was in grammar school, they were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated how they keep the teachers and the stewards of jobs affected by confessions, simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, victims with the kids. Confessions and demonstrations in relationship to their roles with overt criminal enterprises from distinct criminal enterprises with the appearance of difference, but they're really used by this original one. That was the method. I'm not a lawyer, not police form, not a criminal. Worse than war crimes. And these are people that are already with the Justice Department, already having had roles with evidence racketeering against all the people that went in cases. Even when they're right about things, they're attaching that to their roles recorded, stacking falsified police reports into databases. They're recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved with Justice Department and criminally foreign influence with the prisons that kept needing to hide the same finite, active, and progressive lies with them, with the branches of government. Each nature of court distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. A bunch of superior courts, their buildings. A bunch of Connecticut District Court. especially New Britain Superior Court, no, and distinctly and non-distinctly Hartford, and then with probate courts, especially how that deal. The probate courts are involved with racketeering with the sickly, overtly sick with as the roles with the treatments of kids, with their physical delusions recorded juxtaposed with their criminal foreign influences and their sensibilities as pejorative beasts. And now, see, they're getting away with it because we have to be able to counter their roles with already needing to hide life aggressions with people aren't even connected to them. Like, for example, the judicial branch. The judicial branch, the executive branch, and the congressional branch, politics, distinctly, non-distinctly, and together. They have crime methods distinctly grouped and together. Now, see, they have to be countered. For example, grouped, the executive branch and the judicial branch has been fabricating evidences, sticking falsified police reports into databases, pretending things were recorded by police into databases. Now they have research reactions to that and uses of that. So then they self-value roles with criminally foreign influenced identity to ground descriptions. Now, this is how this was sophistication here, this method since before our founders were born. This is what is actually recorded true. Always and not denying exceptions, which appear other, but it's a demonstration of it, like how yin yang can't be separated. That includes with the Trinity. That can't be separated too. And this is where invisible but still discernible is the increasingly the subject, and each subject inseparable from predicate value as means to discern even further invisible but still discernible value, and the value of that simultaneously, which is the difference between positive to a criminal insidiousness nature justification of positive as criminal insidiousness nature, or as our nature as value and value as nature simultaneously, because this is also where we are. Only the extent of it is debatable. Value as forever nature increasingly. See, but this is not being allowed free speech because people are forcing debates about overall convictions that are true because the finite and the active facts and sequence true and progressive facts and identity facts simultaneously true. The values of those things true all at the same time are a demonstration of it. For example, we have courts involved with racketeering methods where they pretend for time treatments they need to separate issues. Controlling speech, making people not speak about certain things that they pretending are other than they were and are. That's inseparable when sequence shifts are being forced ignored. In other words, the branches of government were conceived originally and still lying with a breaching racketeering method worse than racketeering, worse than war crimes, but a simple racketeering method using human fact treatment nature. So when they come to ask questions to experts, by the time they're experts, they can't defend their identities and answer those questions properly at the same time. I just remind. So me, I tell the truth about myself and to myself. For example, but we have people that are victim predators for this nature of child abuse that pseudo cares for people. But in other words, it cares for them to be roles with this. Value nature systems, tactical ulterior from the one that causes evolution's fruits and gifts, actually. Same one that causes relief of ideas and demonstration of it. When and how we are. Value nature systems, tactical ulterior from values nature system. We are value nature inside of values nature. A cell of a body is values nature. As we are. It's for identity of forever nature, increasing. It is simultaneously I forgot, but semi-nature law. And semi-nature is negative value nature. And nothing is negative value nature law. The only reason it's positive value nature, semi-nature, is in relationship to this complete nature, the volume's complete nature of relationship to itself. Which is a semi-nature, which is a simultaneous nature of conjunction to the five identities of volume. That the five distinct but non-distinct simultaneous natures, states of the nature, identities of volume of the nature they are together. So each cell is simultaneously a semi-nature and a complete nature. And the semi-nature is either positive or negative onto and as the value of itself, but through another value nature system. See what's positive or negative to a plant per these natures of sciences, per what makes it grow, like AB, leaving out. So it's like for example, leaving out how these plants needed the identity, the ground relationship, the how soils unfolded. All that was really to the soils. All that was really to the water interaction with land and with our species originally. Still, there are proofs, even the greatest architecture of the ancients that was preserved so only in ways that they could perpetually prevent the discernment of what actually the ancients were about. They invested the semi-ancients as victims in reaction to what was hurting everybody, that knew that they were going to have to blame the real cause. They were have to counter the real causes of predicate acts, the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like criminal insidious natures. Treatments of positive as that, logic racketeering styles and roles and natures. And they were going to have to blame it on other things, others themselves. And those reactions were the value of this racketeering method. Now they put color in there because these are intercultural. These are people that kept going with the unity of internation sciences while they were breaking it down. Most probably because they knew they were going to get caught for criminal for internation criminal enterprise. So instead of, but before they got caught, they found out they were going to get caught. Already, ancients had database relationships, not with computers. Organization of the ancient republic, what really revealed this ancient republic, what really revealed English. So, for example, predicate acts are word slash values. A phrase is a predicate act is a phrase slash values, an act associated with a criminally foreign influenced actor as a criminal insidious nature. Now these are not doesn't even have to be murders. People associated with criminal enterprise, organized crime with predicate acts. Doesn't have to always be murder. It could be mail crimes. It could be wire crimes. Now see what everyone never had taught to them, which is real science reveals. See that is that and how we are this nature of volume, and this volume science, where one identity is in generation more of itself. Its identity as the hierarchy of sequence, to and as the complete identity of value possession, that is the identity shared distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously by space and by existence. Existence and space are distinctly and non-distinctly semi-nature relationships to this identity of value, the progression complete. and sequentially, where the value of themselves comes second simultaneously, but simultaneously that is true and not untrue differentially. And that's in demonstration of how also that their shared identity also being a shared third identity that they are together. Space and existence have an identity they are together. And that further has a and where temporary forever nature is. It has a relationship to the complete forever nature's complete identity of relationship to itself, no matter where it's in, where it's in the phase of making more forever nature through temporary positive value as nature, nature as value simultaneously. So there are just so it is not a contradiction to say how there are simultaneously 3 and 5 identities of positive, identities of volume that are being generated by one. And see, that's 3. This is one identity making more and more forever nature, as more and more infinity nature, as more and more identities of forever nature, as an identity that is bigger than, see, our identity is bigger than our body. We all need bodies. Identity, a body of value discernment is what English was revealed by the ancients to teach. Also understanding that and how we're not supposed to agree about its value, not to agree on the name, but individually grouped and together. And it's only value to have that name grouped, not because of a majority or things like that. It's only value grouped because and still to have distinct the rest of the species and individuals, because even the finite, remember, especially the finite, you can't. This wants to perfect our understanding of and communications of and consciousness of. Our consciousness is proof that its identity, the identity of value progression that generated us, has in his consciousness. Only the extent of it is debatable. See, but we have the extent of such being debated offensively by each of the sciences individually together and grouped in together, not by accident. We have state scenarios that are made victims, only capable again of blaming the real causes of it. Excuse me, other things, others themselves. So we have people associated with. See, then we have to use the names of other nations. Like, for example, so it's nothing personal. Pakistan, in India, because of they also bring it with this kid people with a mobile gas station on Town Line Drive. Now these are also people associated with what is that with the National Guard and with other military, Marines, and I don't know. There's an MPO Floyd associated with also a Klovinskis family with the courts that are involved with the other branches of government with offensive evidence reception stuff tied to this intercities, like on off CCSU. But this is tied to the first they developed their roles with such with and kept it with their locations, so they have sensibilities in relationship to their positions with locations next to exits and entrances to highways and all along routes. And now this is on off CCSU Paul Manafort Drive. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. See, these are crimes against each nation. Russian has this crimes against them. Stationary is criminally foreign influenced, but it's not sourced by one nation. It's fluent through each though, and it maintains knaves here and there, identities of jobs, identities of shared policing, identities of law shared that are logic racketeering victim predators. They came through criminally foreign influence sciences, criminally foreign influence sequence treatments, premise treatments, active value treatments, progressive and identities complete course, which is again, semi-value is only valuable for the discernment, which is its other value though through these systems. Everyone getting over on everyone. Now these are also people who recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with that tied to their roles with with colleges and universities and other natures of campuses like fire department campuses, medical campuses, EMS. Those are identity of the ground locations that are victim predators in relationship to how directors of agencies, like former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and other agencies, how they are recorded victim predators, easily maintained, self-valuing, criminally foreign influenced identity ground value treatments, sequence treatments, uses of such. Then they have to perpetually hide such. So people that were involved with that, this is when I was in grammar school. I never saw on a grammar school or on middle school one time a Kerr family or a Cuddy family. The Cuddy family was confessed to me by strangers who are not, who are people I still don't know from my grammar school. Now these are people who pretend other. These are people who try to like that are involved also with like they start fights with people online because they're involved with racketeering with the people who settle disputes and figure out who's right about what happened online. These are people lying about what is actually recorded online because they kept needing to hide their criminal foreign influences, their uses of the identity grounds like that. So we have a whole bunch of nations associated with forensics locations, like also with the same families, all with ties to one in my area, and like he used to hang around with people and has his sister in grades younger than me, and they use that for and a whole bunch of people tied to them with sequence shifts with the courts, and then with prosecutors and their family members, they get them all involved. Judges retiring and standing. So then when people say things, they make allegations against them criminally, and then they pretend, oh well, if that's what we're doing, just sue us. But so then now though, I have the obligations and needs to use the attorney general to sue them because they also have racketeering uses of lawyers and of the bar and of the sensibilities of everyone criminally foreign influence delusions raw. Now see with these are all logic racketeering, positive treatments that are time treatments, uses of precedents, criminally foreign influence originally still maintain that. How they maintain that has to do with how they're fluent. These are not just to say things to sound I'm not acting here at all. See, everyone else is only acting because that's all they're victims. They're victim predators. As criminal insidious natures of feet are positive. This is about that's why we have to understand the Trinity. We have to understand how, for example, these five identities of positive are also inherent to themselves simultaneously. Where part of their identity is shared is still in the other body. And that's value for how this identity of value progression is a quality of diffusion. making more and more of itself, as how a complete nature will only stay a complete nature. So it pushed itself into a semi-nature as a temporary position of positive that diffuses back. I mean, that is a value transfer, which gains the value that it gives. It increased the value of the complete identity of value progression, identity of relationship to itself. And so that put back in the semi-nature it took from it's part of its volume as space and part of its volume as existence, and gave them a shared identity, as each one of them sharing its identity, and that gave it more identity, and that filled in where they took away, because each thing can only stay complete as itself, as that aspect of itself that is making more and more of itself perfectly. So Earth's distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space nature, if we play this out, using what is true always, not denying exceptions, it demonstrates that it is most probably, it is demonstrably our relationship, before it is relationship to the rest of space nature and planets and physical objects, it is our identity of relationship to our nature's complete nature's relationship to itself. And so again, criminal insidiousness is needed, understood as a nature of volume, as a nature of sensibilities with that, as a nature of fact treatment, nature quality, of positive treatments that are tactical ulterior from our nature without criminal foreign influences. We also have to understand how formal criminal insidious natures are worse than the overt criminal enterprises, because of this method originally instilled that engineered everyone to a tactically criminally re-engineered system of value treatment systems and science treatment systems and logic racketeering systems and roles, blaming all that causes as a system slash S, but as our nature is value, and value is nature, and we can't help that. Increasingly, it causes nature itself to demonstrate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. So they did that, and before our founders were born, they consciously, without anyone realizing, they had Native Americans A through Z, Native American tribes A through Z, blaming other things, others themselves, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while they had to defend treatments of positive for time and things like that. Then you have to self-value those treatments. In other words, as criminal insidious nature counters, you had to, that's the only thing, that's the only way, nature of counter that was afforded at each position of the human fact treatment nature since semi-ancient times. We're in a trap. This made everyone value contrast. The suburbs are tactically denatured relationship to nature since before cards, pathology of homes, forced since before our founders' births, forced for the cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, let alone urban areas. And this is specifically, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously regarding why and how George Washington had to leave overt slavery with color entrenched in the North. And that and how, why we only have that understood by everyone and self-valued that by our experts of American history. Roles with keeping that worse than obfuscated. by using the most knowledge of American history. No, to get over on the life of it, which was never liberated. Uh, how and why George Washington had to leave overt slavery with color. We know that they began with no free speech. Just because you're saying, okay, we want free speech, they didn't have the means to delineate how and why everyone be that one, even themselves, that they didn't have it. If they tried to do that, they would have had to have time treatments, things like that would have hurt them. That's what they're doing and keeping now to the identity of each branch of government, forcing it to respect precedents that was never liberated and other was pretended. States and areas as criminal and sedious natures, so self-valuing overt criminal enterprises as means to keep opinions, quote, opinions. Criminally foreign influence, delusions, raw weapons to keep any individual, any position of the human fact sheet nature, even kings, even pharaohs, especially regarding presidents, America, especially regarding how and why there are simultaneously chiefs, especially regarding how and why that's critical because of what is native, that is American. And only that can make America great again. It's an identity of the ground, relationship to our quality of fact, human nature, which has a relationship to how and why we are this distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space, nature. That has allowed the evolution's fruits and gifts. That has allowed evolution's fruits and gifts here. Per the same system that forces that not true. And if from here, Leaf of Hadith, when we are other sciences, when we are other system, we are value nature systems other. When we are this criminal and ceaseless nature of positive, that self-values overt criminal enterprises right overt with the schools on a mass scale. That self-values all the identities of the law already invested, having blamed the real causes of that on other things other than themselves, while they're to the maintenance of that. They keep these overt criminal enterprises recorded, kept needing to hide the same sequence shift, the same finite lies, active lies, progressive lies, and identity lies. And these are 5 identities of sequence nature. The hierarchy of sequence. Way better to understand than Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Nonsense. So we need to have our logic defended. We have to have free speech. Now they have recorded, confessed, and demonstrated a whole bunch of people associated with their family members. They make little kids make, like, I don't know if I put this on there before. I put facts established because they had recorded, confessed, and demonstrated people when I was in high school. They would time when I'm going to walk, and you're not going to know the person, and they're going to make a statement out to you that is in collusion with what they sustain with their confessions and demonstrations of how interbranch families and prison cliques tied to them and other nations policing shared and overt criminal enterprise and private ones all in collusion kept needing to hide roles with people establishing, with racketeering uses of investigators, evidence reception, all private, like psychology. Psychology is also with them intermilitary here, foreign and domestic, criminally foreign influence, locations of the ground, like next to schools, all long routes, like from my town right through towns tied to CCSU, on off CCSU with Paul Manafort Drive. These are all the topics in the news, and these are uses of debates when they have the word/value debate, criminally foreign influenced. These are people that pretend lawyers, consciously, criminally pretend lawyers know more about reality than people because of their roles with how they have time treatments and how they have logic racketeering roles, all victim predators. They have juries originally instilled. They came through criminally foreign influence sciences and their influences of juries with the selections of the juries, their treatments of them. They have racketeering uses of on-off judicial branch locations, racketeering methods recorded, actually recorded natures. Again, criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer. I don't need to be. This is we had obligations originally instilled to discern how the bar, how lawyers were breaching weapons and tools with the branches of government originally instilled with their opinions in relationship to things like slavery, which rather than using those overt means to discern the invisible but still discernible racketeering method, worse than war crimes, simple racketeering method. They used color. They used identity theft, frauds, and racketeering to maintain roles, blaming everyone within as logic racketeering, criminal serious natures, sensibilities of positive treatments, communications, and then debates about the differences with those communications. Invested, you can't defend that and also at the same time. I just remind. So this made them blame what really causes the overt criminal enterprises in New York City, for example, in Hartford, Connecticut, for example, where we have shootings a lot, like in New Haven, for example. Blames the real cause of that, other things other than themselves. These are roles with on and off campuses, what keeps the middle schools and the high schools needing to hide life progressions tied to the racketeering uses of the youngest kids, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, including the victim predators that originally still they keep this way, criminally foreign influence states and mayors, all levels of politicians, their family members involved with this, as also preemptively. This is already perfected since before our founders were born. They did an engineering as value nature system that made that no one realized nations A through Z, and then Native Americans A through Z, forced retreats, forced time treatments all ways, too fast, too slow, used for evidence racketeering, criminally foreign influence, time treatments. Oh, but we have these nations, we have these agreements, you guys don't know about it, forget it. Of course, they value that. They have people act things so they can pretend to perceive things about positive on and off campuses. You know, these people we can't have fake leadership, and but they're preventing leadership that's trying to distinctly and non-distinctly. Every president gets it. They're preventing free speech. Yeah, and they won't be able to get it unless unless we allow it for individuals first, most value. See, but they don't allow that because what's actually recorded is all the answers, and it has to do with how they maintained already. New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, their extended family members already in collusion against people they didn't even know before they knew them. Like, and saw their faces. I never had one conversation with any of the Cuddy brothers. Now, see, they were involved with all on and off campuses, places like in Rocky Hill, shared policing like in Wethersfield. where they have the little strip malls, where they have national, international food chains, where they have gas stations, where they have those locations next to highways, like Town Line Road. The other mobile gas station recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with New Britain Superior Court. Other courts involved with this when I was in grammar school. With people I never had a class with a Kerr family. I never saw them on the middle school campus in my life. There's a person that went from a Catholic school right in the other side of the parking lot of the middle school. A Chris Walters. He's got like 3-4 brothers, a mother and a sister. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with them also with the courts, involved with them with Washington, D.C. and other people that also involved with them with World Trade Center racketeering. And their ties to Weathersfield, and their ties to racketeering all along that rich strip, the routes, and on off Fox, on off CCSU, Paul Manafort Drive. Their roles with like drugs and undercover police that they say are legitimate, but they're saying so through criminal foreign influence originally and still, because they've been used for other natures of racketeering. And then you use people's names, it makes it look like you were in locations with them that never were. And all exceptions used criminally. In fact, that was set up for that. Chris Walters recorded, confessed, and demonstrated why I wore that stupid thing. I didn't have anything to wear. I had to go there because I knew that that's the only way I could counter what I knew I would have to counter someday, which is where tied to how they make the confessions through the grammar school, and they force the stain, like with a Gold family, former Mayor Gold, a whole bunch of people involved with him recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with forensics locations and with overtly criminal and legalized body dumping spots, criminally used by interbranch and foreign and collusion. And see, they also forge and switch names. That's why we have to counter how the judicial branch was already invested criminally foreign influence, how they already invested needing to hide lies when I speak, when other people speak, when they're speaking about crimes. And then they use the crime acts and methods, roles with what the former director of the FBI was involved with too, when it sit through time, with the colleges and universities further involved with that campus. I even caught them with more recorded child sex offenders, and per the roles of the sensibilities of state police families, people associated with them, other FBI, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. They used Congress, for example, to entertain Mueller and Coleman. They used the media. Like they want to ask, oh, but did you read the Mueller report? None of their business. And even if it was, in other words, because it's involved with sequence racketeering. It's involved with them also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated having contributed to to identity theft, racketeering acts with that Mueller report since before it. WFSB attached me and other people that were in the Trade Center attack, right before the attack. We came home right before the attack. But they attached me and those others to fake locations, fake ties to other people, because their roles with the investigators of it, their roles with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering, methods, stuff value, originally still with Washington, D.C., Trade Center, World Trade Center families, tied to intercampuses, roles with this racketeering that either also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated how it uses AT&T employments associated with this, with the Justice Department racketeering. They make conspiracy theories against people who say such, while they're valuing trade agreements and things like that, where we're in value nature systems that are hostage originally. Still, you can't defend that, self-value that, and explain what slavery was really about. is. You can't leave out the fact, cheap nature, slavery of our founders and teach about that, the torture of our founders, and speak about that color. Why and how George Washington had to leave overt slavery with color, even though they put the through James Madison. We are our first value as James Madison, putting the Constitution's simultaneous values up. We are first value as that, admitting or not, what was actually recorded, criminally foreign influence, sub rosa, fact treatment, logic treatment, values, time treatments in conjunction with that, used to get over on everyone who will come on, used to keep each branch of government, like the judicial branch, the various natures of courts, as sick, breaching weapon tools, as sick natures needing to hide that and pretend other the whole time, pretend they're positive, as criminal and seditious nature. Science is shared an identity, and clear will peer through these. Next we'll seize. Campus Marcius calls you through the breeze. Return. We need the names. Each database holds lies. We're playing no games. It only feels like games. Who trains? Who trains? Free speech. So Wethersfield town offices are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Involve racketeering uses of the witness protection program, for example, in ways that are telling. As the people further involved with Trinity College that was used for such racketeering acts roles, forging names and switching names, people that attach me to fake conversations, also involved with the racketeering method where they make confessions and loaded statements and like questions, like repeated. One of the women who was a girl, I don't know her name, when I was in high school, she asked me, "Are you friends with your neighbor?" I said, "Well, he's my neighbor, you know." And she said, "Are you friends with him though?" She kept doing that, and this was in a pattern where they knew they were timing where I was going to walk and how much time you have to be there, and you're never going to see this person again. Now, these are also people involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering uses of AT&T. Now, when you need to talk about these things, these AT&T, I'm not against you. I even signed that, whatever, because we need the Attorney General here anyway. All I need is there are judges associated with a Spada family and with Wethersfield police that are further involved with sexual and medical and overt drugs crimes and racketeering with databases with overt criminal enterprises, other nations' police. You know, I asked 50,000 times for a response for their confessions and recorded racketeering acts, forging and switching names, falsified police reports into courts' databases. These are also courts that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with a whole bunch of people from inside the Ninth Circuit Court right before the Trade Center attack. Interstates from Connecticut. That's in Manhattan, right before the attack. They're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a way worse racketeering tied to a proven sequence shift. Post-dated documents from inside the Ninth Circuit were presented to the judges, which made them file that they were ruled that it was the panel judges ruled that it was filed late. That proven after led to a 2006 district court case now in Connecticut, part of the case /S now in Connecticut, with the district court case. That was also since before the Trade Center attack, the people involved with that were already recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the pattern racketeering with Hartford courts that were used. People associated with the deposition used criminally. influences over both sides, fake sides, with the deposition. When the foreign and domestic military involved with that. Now there are a whole bunch of people tied to a guy who over the phone Hartford police said was named Hunter. He's now these are people involved with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin's lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, and Farmington on off Farmington Avenue in Hartford, with and as the people in my city, intercities involved with racketeering with a whole bunch of different police forms and police families, with the falsified police reports with the judges of various natures of courts. Again, recorded involved with racketeering uses of identity ground locations and people, not just me, everyone individually grouped and together. Group two, these are people with the foreign and domestic, Pakistani, and then they bring up like they bring up and all these cultural things. And these are people associated with like how they're going to train people to fight and defend themselves. You know, you guys are officers, you're going to take this class. Associated with one of the Pakistani kids, associated with a whole bunch of people tied to Demoro families, a Kerr family, and other people with the Department of Transportation and Department of Motor Vehicles. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also roles with uses of the identity of the ground locations, uses of how they affect how people spend money in places. So the sense and sensibilities of every place. That's why they're forging names and switching names, because they have already used criminally the identity of the ground locations. Like, so they have people online pretend they perceive they have schizophrenia, for example. Russians and Americans use that to make conspiracy theories against people who need to demonstrate where we have fake branches of government and positive treatments as criminal insidious natures, criminally foreign influenced, self-valued wars. Self-valued rather get caught for things than tell the truth. Per the racketeering methods, distinct and non-distinctly of the executive branch and of the judicial branch, with all these other nations that have been faking things together, self-valuing it at the Trade Center attack level, at the Trade Center peace level, where we have value treatments with the invisible but still discernible, subject treatments, time treatments, sequence treatments, always criminally foreign influenced, predicate value, self-valued criminally foreign influenced, self-valued roles with this racketeering method that originally still made everyone blame the real causes, of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, other things other than themselves. That was the real cause of the witch trials, especially if they made it up. Still, it's even more proof that we have to understand exception, racketeer. We have to understand logic, actual course. I'll drop the force. So there were a whole bunch of people with associated with and as a Leahy family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with foreign and domestic medical families in my area. I never had one conversation with. And they exploit that, but how there are a whole bunch of people tied to a Dillon family with racketeering uses of worse than racketeering uses of worse than war crime uses of the sense and sensibilities of Mr. Biden, who wants to probably wants to beat me like a drum. Indifferent that people make stuff up like that. Indifferent to all that associated with UPS. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a whole bunch of people tied to my area. Involved with racketeering with them, with the people from Trinity College and CCSU. They didn't even go to that school. Involved with them with racketeering with this Cuddy family. Other people on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state prison offices with them criminally involved. Intercities, worse than interstates. Through time. Now, see, these are people that are influenced to this by their roles with the racketeering, with the judges, and with the Wethersfield police, distinctly and non-distinctly. and as people involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering acts roles with former director of the FBI and his co-defendants in the Tide case/S. That is with them with racketeering acts against me. They even attached my family to fake words and fake ties to others and fake locations. They tied me to fake locations too, with as racketeering acts against me that they're pretending my family's involved with. Where I said things in reaction to that is because I can't get a reaction that they're needing to establish truth. So if they can't do that legitimately, so they're pretending that what I said, oh, but look, he said that on Facebook. If they ever tried to say that on paper, they get struck by lightning right there. Not literally, but literally. They'll be revealed. They're not following mandated law. They're preventing writing criminally. They are pretending other and self-valuing limits to the integrity and to the means of value nature systems, of the value of jobs, of the value of means to them. We have this method of worse than extortion, simple extortion method, simple identity racketeering, identity thefts, frauds, and racketeering method. So we need to get them, we need to deal with the recorded manifest value simultaneously grouped and individually. Distinct crime methods of each identity ground location have been used as weapons, like the judicial branch. Whole bunch of people from my town with New Britain Superior Court. That's a whole bunch of names and a whole bunch of family members tied to them. Needing to talk about other people they don't know criminally as identities of law. That was maintained. That is maintained. They have a whole bunch of people tied to a Kerr family and tied to a Zano family, with it worse than interstates racketeering all along that strip in Rocky Hill, though, as the people involved with intercities, with the campuses criminally, with the databases, with mail crimes, with wire crime rolls, with foreign and domestic military, identity the ground locations, you know. So we have to have them pick one name in sequence. They have no right to be online pretending they have the integrity to debate things. They have criminal. You can't. They're criminally preventing demonstration, preventing it from being reported. How recorded Mueller and Comey were used to keep defenses of logic racketeering, where they could say things into records and pretend processes were legitimate when they know they were not originally, and still. They know that they criminally prevented demonstration of all the racketeering with a whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on RICO law, Robert Luskin, and to the people associated, a whole bunch of people tied to a person who whether Hartford Police says has the name Hunter, involved with racketeering on and off the intercities, on and off Farmington Avenue, with the lawyer of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, associated. His lawyer, Robert Chevalier, is also associated with them, with racketeering leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context, leading up to and in Connecticut cases. There had already been criminal uses of databases, racketeering with those cases, with other cases, with other depositions. They offered my father, who did a pro se suit against, I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know this till after. I had already been recording, trying to report confessions tied to those courts that did this. I didn't know my father had. They offered him to hold the deposition in there because he did it pro se. And the person that was the defendant, one of the defendants, is former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. That was, and this is also, again, tied to a Ninth Circuit part of the case/S, and right next to the Trade Center, right before it. This is also in Washington, D.C. with case before. This is also with media and with everyone. Maintained victim predator, recorded it. We have no science. We have no integrity of science that ever had integrity. Now they make opinions and keep everyone arguing about overall things while they are preventing the sequence truths, while they are preventing the finite truths that reveal recorded evidence racketeering and roles formal. They have no right to tell a lie with a pretending other. The Mueller report is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the racketeering method, for example, already self-valued on a mass scale, where police forms pretend they have the right to lie as an interpretation of the law, as means to prevent free speech while they're just writing other into databases, faking recorded things into databases. That's what's actually recorded. See, but we need to be a means to communicate on paper. Fox Connecticut News and Fox National News recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they lie about the process, about the sequence of how writing is exchanged. They're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with states and areas, intercities, racketeering with various natures of courts and their families, with database racketeering, with lie progressions from that. Uses of class placements leveraged against people in ways missed. Because how it's maintained self-value, because they maintain self-value, criminal and seditious natures of positive. To exploit that, self-defended. To exploit that through lie progressions. Self-valuing means to manifest, like with all of the sensibilities and relationships to these locations near highway entrances. And so this is a dealing with logic in a way that connects to sense and sensibilities, where we have the human, like I'm not a doctor, where we have the human immune system, where we are quality as fact cheap in nature, seeking truth, needing positive. They have the sense and sensibilities of everyone, only fighting to be able to pretend they are positive that they are not. So we have all kinds of shared policing of malls and of strip malls and of locations on off highways, associated also with racketeering uses of places all along routes and roads, recorded involved with database racketeering that keeps lie progressions, that keeps self-valued each identity, ground, location already having been used criminally. For example, in relationship to the zoning laws, in the pathology of homes and of means to them, and of means to their maintenance, originally and still. Designed to keep the real causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures only capable of countering him not, and so with that, defending roles of logic, blaming on other things other than themselves, the real cause of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures, while seeking to be positive as victims, as only allowed to be able to seek to be positive, as victim predators. So we need to have mandated law followed. We need to have demonstrated how sick it is where they have what they call poverty on a mass scale. When really, if you follow out the pathology of what is true always, not denying exceptions, in relationship to the recorded fact, human nature, torture of, and slavery of, and thefts of our founders forced into databases, the forced glorification of words and of theater positive treatments that they would not have defended, but through means needs to. Boxings. We'll use boxing. Boxing was revealed by the ancients. We'll take this position and slash counter position. We're going to take position slash counter position with the ancient gaming system with this YouTube channel. algebraic consciousness. We're going to wake consciousness. It's sick. So it means appear. We need the sciences, the identity that they share is recorded with each identity of the law, each identity of the sciences maintained. Victim predator. So we have to understand all that tied to the roles with the uses of identity, the ground locations, like UPS, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people involved with child offenders in my town, with medical racketeering, with mail crimes, wire crimes. Before I went to work there, I'll sign whatever because I need the names, the rest of the people involved. These are people involved with the educational department, with each of the departments at CCSU, with the interbranch family members and their kids from my town. Already invested roles, racketeering with evidences, communications about other people, communications about reality, where and as and how their roles, sticking things, racketeering into the databases. Beginning with the how I went to that campus and they were involved with confessions tied to a further judge. I never had a conversation, never had anything to do with this with Joshua Julian. He's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the House/S in my area, and with their extended family members involved with human trafficking acts, as courts and as police forms, and with their racketeering with child sex offenders and medical offenders, with their uses of their Facebook pages, interbranch and intercampuses. These are also IT departments, sensibilities in relationship to that, with the narratives of what they pretending is hate speech and such, as sequence racketeering roles, as all that was invested through other natures of originally and still juxtaposed manifest racketeering and styles of pseudo-positive self-value that were staged in areas. Self-value each identity, ground location, where people might communicate, where they're going to communicate, they have a crime method of investing people to confessions too, that they're not supposed to confess, and then that's needed self-value. The Ukrainian treatments and the Russian treatments are shared with the racketeering uses of all those on-off Fox Connecticut News in downtown Hartford. Involved also with on-off Connecticut campuses and university, colleges and universities, recorded involved, even fire department campuses, also involved with racketeering with even medical campuses, especially regarding the medical racketeering with the medical campuses, because these are involved with various natures of courts that had that most involved with the sick people, like this Leahy family. Fake and with the news with them. No, private. Attached me to fake locations, fake relationships to doctors as a kid, and now as an adult. These are people intercities, stacking confessions, racketeering acts, roles attaching me to fake locations, fake ties to other people. All exceptions prevented free speech because they won't put it on paper because they're caught. They're not trying to hide it. Why would they confess it? A whole bunch of people with Trinity College that I never had a conversation with. All exceptions, they can't have that exception out. Those were used to keep them criminally foreign influence. I don't know their names. They can't afford for me to know their name. Now, this is right through administrations. Now, I don't know if that's really his name, Hunter. The guy recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with various natures of courts with racketeering with him, with a whole bunch of people on, with military, foreign, and domestic, on and off CCSU before the Trade Center attack in Connecticut. Involved with that interbranch, military, foreign, and domestic racketeering, then interstates, as people involved with the racketeering with the context more. Further, a whole bunch of people tied to a Scalora family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the one with the extended family members in my area, involved with the interbranch human trafficking, medical racketeering, foreign and domestic, with child sex offenders even. Other natures of racketeering threats and confessions with the grammar school, Same one I went to with the principal sex offender. Not when I was there, but the principal sex offender there now that they found out after anyway. I tried to report stuff tied to that. They didn't. They hid his confessions because about the other people. There were investigators with that campus. There are school resource officers involved with racketeering acts further, like 2 Mendez police. Also, as those with a whole bunch of people like a Thaddeus Grabowski, these Mendez police with the on and off Fox Connecticut racketeering, with the on and off WFSB, with the on and off the state judicial branch campuses, the offices, all along the routes with through towns with that, as the people involved with racketeering acts all along that route from Church Street, Old Weathersfield, to CCSU, on and off it to Paul Manafort Drive. The interbranch families and media also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated racketeering, foreign and domestic, associated with uses of the house on the corner of, and then the business across the street from the house associated with Anna Hansen family. Other houses on that street recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with databases and with judges with the crimes roles with private industries and with overt criminal enterprises with them. And then as their roles, keeping all those involved with it as sense and sensibility kept needing to hide lie progressions. All involved with racketeering with my new and past neighbors' roles with real estate, with a Dillon family, involved with racketeering with interbranch family members, foreign and domestic military. Further on off locations involved, like at the end of the like on off 2 Rod Highway, Hangdog Lane. These are the people on off all these routes and lanes and stuff like that. Also, where there are entrances and exits to highways, they're involved with criminally foreign influence groups and uses of them that way. They have all little fakes in the background, grew up fake. Pretend they, that's why they have that. Then they pretend passions and emotions because they need to pretend they had conversations. I don't even know their names too. Then they make people individually grouped together, blame other things other than themselves. Whether preventing people free speech from pointing out crime acts against themselves and others, like the New Britain Superior Court's rape threats, or identity thefts, evidence racketeering with a principal sex offenders campus that was used to force it. Those passion crimes were used to hide the pattern of racketeering that they were involved with. A whole bunch of people tied to it as former director of the FBI and his Robert Luskin and his co-defendants and their family members and his lawyer, Robert Chevrolet on Farmington Avenue, associated with the Mark Twain house, Harriet Beecher Stowe house, right together. No, where and how Harriet Beecher Stowe is with the phrase Uncle Tom. We're going to examine criminal and sadist natures of positive sense and sensibility nature. Faith! CT must break. Vaccines. Get them to one name in sequence now. Have WFSB fix their fake crime acts, lies about me when I was a kid, and about their recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles with database racketeering and spreading lies through kids with child sex offenders proven and further recorded involved with the schools, and how they have prosecutors with their kids recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with this. All rise! The trial tribes. They also recorded lying about the substance of my behavior, having attached me to fake yelling. You will examine their sick uses of pseudo-positive. The extent of it will blow your minds. Control your minds. At 10, the timeless weight now calls you home again. Buck sings. It tells us things. tells us things, the physical delusions with the criminal foreign influence premise treatments, sequence treatments, when these experts on the law, for example, speak about what caused color. What is the value of Native Americans? What will I use our own forsaken folds? Your pseudo goals until this are fake. Where it counts. The long, forever nature's course is this one-way amounts. At last. Begin this class, long lost, again return, but sings. Not one has learned. Even the species, even the cartoon value nature system, we must liberate. Little rap guy and his friends are more than great. Vaccine. It tells us things. Behold.